yeah, in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the plugins and templates that I recommend and why. So yeah, if you search DokuWiki plugins, you can see which ones there are, and the same for templates. There'll be a word cloud showing you different types of plugins, and you can also sort by popularity. And if you go to any plugin, you can see if there's any issues with it and if it's been updated to work on the latest release. Sometimes if it says that it hasn't, it still might work, but it's always good if it does say that it is, because then you have more indication that it will work if you are using the latest version of DokuWiki. And it's the same for templates as well. We have all the popularity, and some of them have screenshots as well, so you can see what they look like. And yeah, once you've decided on a plugin that you want, let's say this one, the wrap plugin, you can search for it, or from the admin, there'll be an extension manager. From here, you can see all the plugins that you've installed. You can uninstall them, reinstall them, disable them, which just deactivates it until you hit enable, and then it will reactivate it. And the same for templates. And from here, you know, if you wanted to add one, you can just search for it, and if it's not installed, it will show up, and then you can hit install. So that's sort of how that all works. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you about which plugins and templates I recommend. The DokuWiki template is bundled by default, and I actually still recommend it for mobile, and you can use a plugin so that this only shows up on mobile, just because I find it sort of lays things out a bit better. But I prefer to use the Bootstrap 3 template for desktop, and it sort of makes everything look prettier. You can have like a profile picture, which I'll show you how to configure later, and yeah, so it looks quite nice. So yeah, in terms of plugins, I reckon the upgrade plugin is a must-have from the admin panel at this wiki upgrade button. And if you're not running the latest version, it will give you an option to continue, and then it will automatically perform the update process. I recommend doing this a couple of months after the latest release, so that the plugin developers have time to update their plugin for the latest version. The wrap plugin is another no-brainer. You're going to want that. So I'll give you just a simple example. If you had like a list and you wanted it to go like this, but you had some points here and some text here, well, by default, that's going to restart it back from 1. But with the wrap plugin, you can sort of associate all this with the 4th point, and then it will continue from 5. So it's useful for formatting what you already have, particularly with the like any sections, and it integrates well with the section toggle plugin, and it's also very handy for tables, just to improve the formatting. And it also provides new syntax elements that you can render on the screen. And yeah, for all of these plugins, you can read their page for more information about what they do. These are just trying to get through them as quick as possible, which ones I recommend and why. The edit table plugin is another very important plugin. It just gives you a nicer way to insert tables into your wiki. It gives you this table editing interface. You know, if you right click this, you can add a new row, and same for columns. You can merge cells. And it also adds this, it renders a bit differently to the default tables as well. And yeah, it also adds this edit button that you can click to render that. Perform the table editing there. Anything that helps you navigate the wiki better, I'm going to recommend. So index menu, it can handle over 3,000 pages, and it's not slow in my experience. And it just gives you this structure, and you can put that in your sidebar to render that. So that's quite useful. The DokuWiki to PDF plugin, you know, if you're going to have pages, this will let you export it as a PDF file, and then you can share it or print it, do whatever you want with it. So that's very useful, I think, for everyone. The tag plugin is also something I recommend because it can also be used to help you navigate the wiki. Let's say you had recipes, maybe you had 50 cake recipes. You could give all of those cake recipes the cake tag, and then if you click the cake tag, it will show you all the other cakes pages that you have that also have the same tag. And it integrates with the cloud plugin, so it can create like a word cloud of all your tags. And the more the tag appears, the bigger it is. And you could put that on, let's say, your recipe homepage. And if you had other recipes like muffins or smoothies, you could click the different tags in the word cloud and see all the matching or pages that have the same tag. So that can be quite useful for navigation. Currently, the regular Add New Page plugin doesn't work, but the deluxe version does work. So I'm using the Add New Page deluxe version at the moment. So normally if you want to add a new page, let's say I want to add a new page in here, I would have to type folder A, folder B, folder C, which represents the folders by the colon, and then the page that I want to add. And then if I click this, it will let me add the page, right? And now it's here. But with this plugin, you can more efficiently just click folder C, type in that, put in the new page, and it will jump you straight there. So it's just a more efficient way to traverse the different folders instead of typing it in. The include plugin is also quite useful. I'll just see where I've demonstrated that somewhere in here. Maybe I haven't demonstrated. Oh yeah, here it is. So yeah, the include plugin is here, and the tab include plugin is just below that. So they're quite similar, but the include plugin, it renders it in a straight line. You can have other pages in your page, and it has this edit button, so you can just go straight to that page that you're adding into this page. And the tab include one, it gives you this different tabs, so you can jump between them. So that's the tab include one is, I'm recommending that because that can help you navigate the wiki, and anything that helps with that's generally quite good. And the include is good because you might want to include lots of pages in one like master page, right? The image paste plugin, it's a bit of a trade-off, but it's sort of like you sacrifice descriptive names for your media files, like your images and stuff. It just gives it the time as the file name. But if you're in a rush, it can let you just copy and paste your images in instead of dragging them to the media manager and uploading them. And it generally works for smaller files like images or small PDF files. So yeah, keep that in mind. It's a trade-off of descriptive names for a more efficient way of inserting your things into the wiki. You can just sort of copy and paste it in, Control C, Control V, and it'll add the image in. This one, it lets you export your page in a file format that can be read by LibreOffice, OpenOffice, and also Word. So that can also be quite useful. As you can see, it's got our page from the wiki. The page navigation plugin, I had that here. So that one, oh no, it was this one. Oh no, it was this one. Oh, this one, I can't remember. Yeah, so it just adds this. So this button would move you to the next page, this one to the previous one, this one to like a start page, this one to the very first page, this one to the very last page. So it's sort of based on this directory structure. So the last is the bottom, first is the top, next is the one down, and previous is the one up. So that can be quite handy if you want to cycle through the pages in a folder. The section toggle plugin is also quite useful. It just adds these sections that you can click to sort of show or minimize the information overload and only show sort of what you want to see. Now, two-factor authentication improves the security of a wiki, so I 100% recommend that. Now, I personally use the Google authentication version of it, but there's also email and other alternatives, but I use the Google Authenticator one. And how that works is when you log in, it will ask you for a code from your phone to put in, and it has these dependencies as the attribute plugin two-factor authentication core plugin is dependencies. But yeah, it will ask you for a code, and when you put that code in, you'll be able to log in. And I'll do that every time you try and log in. But yeah, once you're logged in, you'll generally be logged in for a while. So it's not like you have to enter it too many times, just generally every day or every new day that you use the wiki. And you might be worried. You might think, well, look, if I forget, if I lose my phone or something, will I be able to access the wiki? And the answer to that is, well, even if you forgot your password to your wiki and you didn't have the code from your phone, like you forgot both somehow, you would still have access to the server username and password, and so you can access all the files from there, right? So through FileZilla or some other client. So it's not really locking you out, it's just additional security mechanisms. So even if someone knew your wiki username and password, they wouldn't be able to log in because they don't have the code from their phone. The template modifier, or TPL mod, that's quite useful for further customizing the wiki, and it can also hide things that you want hidden for users that aren't logged in. So I find that quite useful. Deny actions is sort of similar in a way. It says, well, if you're not logged in, I don't want users able to do certain actions. So that can help, restrict users to maybe just viewing pages and not maybe exporting as a PDF or editing, similar actions that you don't want them to do. The link suggest plugin, how that works is, normally if you want to add a page, let's say this animals page, into here, or link to it, I'm trying to say, you would have to remember that it's animals. But what link suggest does is it just shows you suggestions. So it's quite handy. It gives you like an autocomplete. Like if I wanted to add this, my new page, it's, I can just do that. Oh, actually, no, I'd have to go folder A, folder B, folder C, and then my new page. So it's just an autocomplete way. So you don't have to sort of copy and paste this in. It can help you quickly do that. So those are my recommendations for, I think probably everyone should have them installed, because I think they'll get some use out of it in 99% of the time. Maybe some people might not, but I think they're a good starting point. And now I'm going to go to the maybe more circumstantial ones. Depends on, what you're using a wiki for. You might find it indispensable or you might not. So the sort table JS one, basically that lets you click the table headers and sort it in ascending and descending order. So that can be quite nice. You can just click the heading of the table and it will filter it that way. The gallery plugin, how that works is it will let you import images from a folder and it will render them all in a gallery. I can show you the official appearance of that. And then you can click any image and it just looks just a nicer way of rendering images. Maybe you have some photos you want shown. Now the move plugin, you don't strictly need it, but if you want to move folders or pages, this plugin can help you do that through the wiki. Alternatively, you could just do it through FileZilla or some other client. So it's purely optional, but if you want to do it through the wiki, that's the way to do it through the wiki. The video share plugin, that lets you add videos to your wiki from online sites like YouTube. You'll just provide the ID of the video. So if I use this as an example, there'll be a share button and you want to click copy and paste that in. You want to provide the plugin with that, and then it will let you import the video in. The Bootstrap wrapper, it just extends Bootstrap 3 with some additional syntax that might be useful if you need that additional syntax. The folder plugin, that can be quite useful if you want to hide something, like maybe you have like I don't know, like a trivial question or something of that nature, and you want to only show it when you click the title, and then everything in that will display. One problem I have with it though is sometimes it does that when you don't want it to. Like if you had C++, which is a programming language, it might accidentally, render it. You can get around that by typing, wrap C and then plus maybe, and then, and then you might have to do that for the other plus, with the wrap plugin. But I find that can be a bit annoying. So just keep that in mind, that it can trigger when you don't want it to if you use a lot of pluses, right? And this symbol. But I'm sure that might be fixed in the future. The discussion plugin, that makes it so that users can leave comments on your wiki. So that can be useful for that. If you want people to be able to leave comments. The MathJax plugin is very useful if you want to have maths. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say you have this expression as an example. You can use math tags, or I've customized it to use math tags. And yeah, you want to get rid of the and symbols and minimize spacing as well when you use this. So it's something to keep in mind. And then you can see it's rendered the math, and you can click this to see the LaTeX. Now you might think, well, look, I don't know LaTeX. How do I write that in? Well, you can always learn it. And even if you did learn it, you can use tools like MathPix to more efficiently get LaTeX. So even people that do know LaTeX might prefer to use something like this object character recognition tool to either scan their handwritten math, which can be inaccurate if your handwriting's as bad as mine, or screenshot math from their computer and it will automatically convert it to LaTeX. And then you can just copy and paste it into your wiki. So that could be quite useful if you're dealing with a lot of math. This one's quite useful, the SVG plugin, because if you want to have an Excel file in your wiki, you can export it as a SVG file, and then this will render it as a table. So that can be quite handy. Block quote, this one's really simple, but if you're working with a lot of quotes, this will just make it slightly more pretty than the default way, I think, in my opinion. You can just sort of, say who the quote's from and it'll render it nicely. The load skim plugin, that was the one I was talking about where if you wanted to maybe switch between the two, maybe this one on mobile, this one on desktop, this provides that functionality. The no sidebar one, this one's quite niche, but I use it purely because if you view the sidebar page, if you didn't have this here, it would show it twice when you view that page, and then it would be a conflict because you're rendering the index menu twice. So I pretty much purely use it just to address that error, so it doesn't render it twice. But it's not, it's not the super important, I suppose, because you're not visiting that page too often. Doku Prism, that one's really useful for programmers. So if you do any programming, this will give you nicer highlighting, syntax highlighting, like the blue and the red and the green, based on what language you're using, and it supports many languages. So you just you can just specify, what language you're writing, and it will render it with that syntax highlighting. So it's made it red and black in this case, right? And copy code, that's also quite useful for programmers because it lets you just click it and then it will be copied to your clipboard. The caption one, that's quite useful if you have a lot of figures or tables and you want to add like a caption for them. Cell background I find quite useful because if you have a table, you might want to add a background color to some cells. Every task box I find quite useful for, not for tasks actually, even though it says it's for tasks, I find it more useful for goals. But you could also use it for tasks. You can put, what you want to do, what steps or, description of the goal and how much progress you've made towards accomplishing that. The typography plugin, So that provides more ways that you can customize the text, the color, size, weight. So that could be quite handy for that. This one I also recommend for programming, potentially, because if you're writing, this is a bug or something or error, you can sort of do that quite conveniently with this one. This one's really niche. I don't know how many people are gonna want to use this, but if you're a UI designer or something like that, maybe and you have some particular color scheme you want to work with, you can indicate the hex version of that color and it will show on screen. So quite niche, but I find it useful just for maybe indicating what colors you like to work with, and so it's more of like a design page. Ref notes, this sort of replaces the default DokuWiki reference syntax with it's just a way to extends the default footnote syntax. So if you're working with a lot of references, maybe you'll prefer this one for references. And to do plugin, I like using that for tasks. It's very useful for that. You're going to want it. Essentially, you can just have a task. You can indicate who it's associated with that task and when they have to do it by, priority, etc. So that's very useful. Publish, this means, if you had a page available to the public, like anyone can view it, you can edit it and then people won't be able to see the edits you made until you specifically approve the edits, and then it'll be published for everyone to see. Even though anyone can visit that page with your ACL settings, this will make sure that no one can, even though anyone can see the page, this will make sure that no one can see your edits until they approve it. And hidden, this one's very similar to the forwarded plugin. You might use it for trivia, or he used the example of proofs. Maybe you want some element where the user has to click it to display it. So yeah, we went through quite a lot. I tried to go through them relatively quickly. You can always read more about them from their descriptions, but I think this sort of summarizes my personal recommendations, with everyone probably wanting these must-have ones and the nice-to-have ones, case-by-case basis. One downside to installing too many plugins is, in theory, if it doesn't get updated, then and you're dependent on it, then you might have to pay someone to maintain it if the developer doesn't, depending on how reliant you are on it. And I guess you want to make sure that it's also updated for security reasons. Some of the plugins, I'm sure, don't pose virtually any security risk just because they don't do a whole lot, like in terms of maybe they just change the syntax. But yeah, so yeah, I guess all I'm trying to say there is you just want to make sure it's up to date, and maybe you don't want too many dependencies. You should just think about which ones would be most useful for you. And you can plan your wiki around that. In future videos, I'll talk more about how you can customize these, and that will be quite useful, I'm sure. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. Oh yeah, and I just forgot to say that for the two-factor authentication one, I use Aegis for Android. I find that quite good, and that's where you can get your codes, and you can actually back it up and categorize it. So so you won't lose the tokens because you can export a backup. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I can't give you a recommendation for iOS because I don't use it, but yeah, just keep that in mind. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention that I recommend the No Display plugin. The benefit of this plugin is that you can have a page accessible to the public. So like this page I have set up so that the public can see it, but you can hide aspects of that page. So I have this no display 255, and 255 means only the administrator can see what I have enclosed in that. And when you visit that page that's accessible to the public, like I'll show you, non-secret message, you'll see that only the non-secret message will be shown, and that the secret message can't even be seen in the page source, just the non-secret one. So that's something to keep in mind, so that can be quite useful. And I also would like to mention that a couple of these plugins are really only useful if you're running it remotely, like the deny actions template modifier, two-factor authentication, no display. I generally only recommend these ones if you're hosting it on a remote server, and then they're must-haves, right? And the publish one as well. Because yeah, they're mostly to do with controlling, you know, what the public can see and securing it from the public. And yeah, finally, I'll also say that that some of these plugins come by default. You can uninstall the popularity feedback one, and you can also uninstall these ones. You'll find that they're even generally disabled by default because they get overridden by other things, like they're not even enabled. So that's also something worth noting. And if you wanted your own custom plugins, I'm sure that there are developers that are capable of developing those. So don't think that DokuWiki is just limited to what's available, right? Like there's always the potential for new plugins to come out, and they can even be based on what you think it lacks or just would like to see. But yeah, that should wrap up this video.